In this Chemscape presentation, we will learn about flammable and combustible liquids and how to safely handle and store this hazardous material. Flammable and combustible liquids are liquids that can burn. Flammable and combustible liquids are present in almost every workplace. Fuels and many common products like solvents, thinners, cleaners, adhesives, paints, waxes, and polishes may be flammable or combustible liquids. You can identify flammable or combustible liquids by this GHS pictogram and transport symbol. The most obvious hazards of flammable and combustible liquids are fire and explosion. Flammable and combustible liquids can also cause health problems depending on the specific material and route of exposure, breathing the vapor or mist, eye or skin contact, or swallowing. Some flammable and combustible liquids can be corrosive. Flammable liquids catch on fire and burn fast and easily under normal room temperatures. They also give off a lot of heat and often have clouds of thick, black, toxic smoke. Combustible liquids can burn at temperatures that are usually above room temperatures. Combustible liquids at temperatures above their flash point also release enough vapor to form burnable mixtures with the air. Hot combustible liquids can be as serious a fire hazard as flammable liquids. Section 9 details the physical and chemical properties of a product, and this section is important in determining if a product is a flammable or combustible liquid. Physical properties to look at include flash point, auto-ignition temperature, flammability, and upper and lower explosive limit. The flash point of a liquid is the lowest temperature at which the liquid gives off enough vapor to ignite or start burning. The lower the flash point, the greater the hazard. Did you know flammable and combustible liquids themselves do not burn? It is their vapors mixing with air or oxygen that creates a dangerous mixture. If a spark is introduced, it ignites. Another characteristic of a flammable liquid is the flammable or explosive limit. This refers to its fire and explosion hazards. These limits give the range between the lowest and highest concentrations of vapor in the air that will burn or explode. For example, the lower flammable limit or lower explosive limit of gasoline is 1.4%. The upper flammable limit or explosive limit is 7.6%. This means that gasoline can be ignited when it is in the air at levels between 1.4 and 7.6%. A concentration of gasoline vapor in air below 1.4% is too lean to burn. Gasoline vapor levels above 7.6% are too rich to burn. A material's autoignition or ignition temperature is the temperature at which a material self-ignites without any obvious sources of ignition, such as a spark or flame. Most common flammable and combustible liquids have autoignition temperatures in the range of 300 degrees Celsius or 572 degrees Fahrenheit to 550 degrees Celsius or 1022 degrees Fahrenheit. Some have very low autoignition temperatures. For example, ethyl ether has an autoignition temperature of 160 degrees Celsius or 356 degrees Fahrenheit, and its vapors have been ignited by hot steam pipes. Fire can be a potential hazard when flammable and combustible liquids settle in low areas where ventilation may be inadequate, like sumps, sewers, pits, trenches, and basements. Let's now review a list of hazard controls, following the hierarchy of controls to protect yourself from chemical exposure in the workplace. Start by reviewing the safety data sheet for the flammable or combustible liquid you are working with. Section 2 of the SDS tells you about the hazards and precautions of working with the chemical. Ask your supervisor for clarification if necessary. A good plan for the safe use of flammable and combustible liquids contains these components: control of the ignition sources, proper storage, fire control methods, and safe handling procedures. Be sure to take adequate precautions when handling flammable and combustible liquids to prevent the ignition of flammable vapors. Some sources of ignition include sparks from electrical tools and equipment, sparks, arcs, and hot metal surfaces from welding and cutting, tobacco smoking, open flames from portable torches and heating units, boilers, pilot lights, ovens, and dryers. Hot surfaces such as boilers, furnaces, steam pipes, electric lamps, hot plates, irons, hot ducts and flues, electric coils, and hot bearings. Embers and sparks from incinerators, foundry cupolas, fireboxes, and furnaces. Sparks from grinding and crushing operations. Proper storage of flammable and combustible liquids will help prevent fires from occurring. Many undergo dangerous chemical reactions if they contact incompatible chemicals, such as oxidizing materials, or if they are stored improperly. Use only approved, closed containers for storage of flammable or combustible liquids. This includes safety cans or containers. A safety can is a container that has a self-closing lid, internal pressure relief, and flame arrestor. Safety cabinets allow for safer storage of flammable and combustible liquids when kept inside buildings. Cabinets are meant to delay a fire from reaching the hazardous materials inside. To dissipate static electricity, the container receiving the liquid must be in contact with the ground and not insulated from contact with the ground. Bonding and grounding must occur whenever flammable liquids are being dispensed, transferred, mixed, or loaded from one vessel to another container. Well-designed and maintained ventilation systems reduce risk of fire and health problems by removing flammable vapors from the workplace. Safety glasses with side shields need to be worn when handling flammable or combustible materials. Skin and eye contact should be avoided when working near flammable or combustible liquids. At higher levels of exposure to flammable or combustible liquids, chemical goggles, a face shield, chemical apron, chemical-resistant gloves, and respiratory protection may be required. An expert in occupational hygiene may need to be consulted to confirm adequate controls. A well-rehearsed emergency plan is important in case of fire, as time is of the essence. Be ready to leave the area at once if you are not trained to handle the problem or if it is clearly beyond your control. Alert other people in the area about the emergency. Call 911. Spills need to be reported to those responsible for handling spills. Evacuate the area and let trained staff deal with the cleanup. First aid may be required if you have been exposed to harmful chemicals. Remove contaminated clothes and find a safety shower or eye wash. This concludes Chemscape's presentation on flammable and combustible liquids. If you have further questions regarding this topic, please contact your health and safety representative.